Hi, Jerry.
Hello, Sam. Are you litigating today?
Not if I can help it. Meet Hank Tabor.
How do you do?
This is Jerry Spangler for the city and county of San Francisco. Hey, how'd you come on that DWI?
Oh, I got beat by a flood.
It happens every time.
I hope you aren't here for what I think you're here for, Sam.
I'm here for that, Jerry.
Oh, boy.
Cornelius Grandison Biddle. Cornelius Grandison Biddle. An heroic name.
My mother had aspirations.
I know, Mr. Biddle. She stood right where you're standing and told me about them. Often. It is the judgment and sentence of this court to 30 days in the county jail.
You take care of Charlie Sim.
Please remove the defendant.
Number 182258, Sarah Wallace Sykes.
Mrs. Sykes, I'm Sam Benedict.
Sarah Wallace Sykes, is that your true name?
Yes.
Mr. Benedict, do you represent Mrs. Sykes?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
The people of the state of California versus Sarah Wallace Sykes in the municipal court of the state of California in and for the city and county of San Francisco. The district attorney of this county hereby accuses Sarah Wallace Sykes of a felony, to wit, murder, in that on and or about the 20th day of August of this year in this city and county, you did, unlawfully and willfully, murder Henry Atherton Sykes. Sarah Wallace Sykes, how do you plead?
Your Honor, may the matter of the plea stand over for 1 week until I have had an opportunity to acquaint myself with the facts of the case.
Very well, Mr. Benedict. 1 week from today, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Your Honor. May bail be set.
Your Honor, the people can't agree to bail. This is a death penalty case.
Generally, Your Honor, this is true, but in this case, the proof is weak and there is no presumption of guilt.
I disagree with Mr. Benedict about the weakness of our proof and the presumption of guilt.
Your request for bail is denied, Mr. Benedict.
Thank you, Mr. Benedict.
Is the court going to indict Mrs. Sykes?
Well, the grand jury does the indicting around here. This case is on the complaint of the district attorney. I just appeared for the arraignment, and that's it for now.
What, are you going to defend her, Sam?
I'll have to think that one over, boys.
Number 340034, line number 7. Charles Sim.
Don't give me that fisheye look, Hank.
Charlie, did you or didn't you?
No, I didn't. I swear. I'm completely kosher.
What is your true name?
Charlie Sin.
Well, Mr. Sin.
My wicking clothes, Your Honor.
Charles Sin, you were charged with violating the Alcohol Beverage Control Act by serving liquor to minors, 12 of them.
Your Honor, I didn't.
I don't want to hear the facts of the matter now.
Your Honor, my name is Henry Tabor. I represent Mr. Sin.
Very well, Mr. Tabor. Do you waive reading of the complaint?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you ready to plead?
Yes.
How do you plead?
We plead not guilty, Your Honor.
Jury waived?
No, and I would like to request bail at this time.
Your Honor, in view of the past record of Charles' sin, the people would request that bail be set at not less than twice the customary amount.
Your Honor, my client was charged with a simple misdemeanor.
The defendant is entitled to bail under the law. Bail is set at $1,000. Trial 4 weeks from today, 10 o'clock. Department 14. Next.
Okay, Fu Manchu. I'll see you as soon as we take care of this bail.
Okay.
Morning, Mr. Benedict.
Oh, morning.
I told Judge Radcliffe he could stay in there. I thought it'd be all right.
Oh, you thought right, Trudy.
Where are you going?
Mr. Justice.
Sam, I have been walking up and down, breathing. You don't know how I miss it. I mean, the office, the practice. More than anything else, the right to make mistakes. You know, once they make us one of the old men at the Capitol, well, they take those rights away from us. We're embalmed like the Egyptians. Did you get my message on time?
Yes, I appeared at the arraignment.
I want you to defend Sarah Sykes.
Trudy, leave us alone, please.
Well, Sam?
Mr. Justice, is Sarah Sykes a personal friend of yours?
Yeah, since she was 12 or 13. Let's see, her father brought her up to Harvard to hear the Finney lectures in 34, yeah, 13.
A 13-year-old girl at the Finney lectures?
She was no ordinary girl even then. Well, you know how it is. You pick out a face in a jury to focus your histrionics on. Do the same thing with a lecture. Delivered. All 12 Finney lectures to a 13-year-old girl. And she hasn't anybody. I mean, her father died, oh, good 8, 9 years ago.
Children?
No one. I handled her affairs, even her husband's. Sarah got married and came west. I can't do it now that I'm laid out in the Capitol. You willing?
Mr. Justice, if you ask me, I defend Lucretia Borgia.
Good.
No question. She killed her husband.
No question.
Any defense?
Not a whistle. It's up to you.
What can I say? This did not happen to me. It didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. I know that's foolish. It's childish. I can't avoid it. There's no question, is there?
None, unless some miracle occurs to make it possible.
Jurisprudence does not allow for miracles. It only allows for facts. Judge Wallace told me that the law must be as precise as music. And the moment the excess occurs, the moment the miracle occurs, and it's chaos. Now, if I'm to help myself, you mustn't spare me. Please, don't try to be kind. When I killed my husband, Mr. Sykes, was it kind? Was it merciful?
No.
Oh, dear God.
What happened, Mr. Sykes?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I have tried. I've tried.
Can you recall anything? Anything at all?
There's nothing but a void. You believe? Of course you don't.
Exactly what do you remember, Mr. Sykes?
Nothing that matters. Henry went to one of those, what was it? One of those endless fun meetings at the hospital. That was it, at the hospital. Remember, I promised that I wouldn't wake up for him. I worked. I spent the evening editing Judge Wallace's autobiography. His handwriting is so fine. And my head began to ache. Remember, I took some aspirin. I went to bed. But I never sleep when Henry's away. And I thought I heard a noise. I got up to see. Nothing. Nothing at all. Just that endless space and time. What did I do? Where did I go? I don't know. God help me now. God help Sarah Sykes.
Hey, Hank. Just a minute, Charlie. Let it sink in.
Why, you think it's too much?
What?
Well, Lily says, okay, let's give it an Oriental feeling. So what do we got to lose, huh?
Charlie, you haven't lost a thing.
It is too much.
No, not unless you float incense on your martinis. What does that say?
How should I know? Hey, Benny, what's them words?
He only reads Yiddish. That's Mandarin. It says, good luck to Charlie from his friends in San Quentin. Hi, Hank.
Hi, Lily.
Coffee, tea, or gin?
No, I think I'll just drink in the atmosphere.
Pretty ethnic, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, Charlie, give the man a drink. I got to do something about the cocktail waitresses' costumes. Did you read our opening notices? Save them. It may be our closing notices.
Hank, what does a press have on me? I've been clean, I've been playing it cool, I've been playing it straight.
Charlie, give me that again without the soy sauce.
Sure, I served them minors. But why shouldn't I serve them? They got ID cards.
Couldn't you tell they were underage by looking at them?
So what am I, a den mother? The ID cards are of age. I'm not gonna ask for the birth certificates, too. How can you tell about kids anymore? You seen a genuine 15 or a 16-year-old lately?
Okay, so you didn't know them.
Oh, man, those kids. They're the ones that should be in court, those phony ID cards.
Charlie, what about the rest of the stuff in that spread?
Nothing. A big, fat nothing. Dragging up all that dead dirt. Oh, those bums, I could just break their necks. I've changed, Hank. Lily changed me. But with a spread like that, I'm gonna have gendarmes sitting on my shoulder picking lint. They're crying for my skin already. They're not gonna stop crying till they shut me down. They can't, Hank.
Spangler's determined to prosecute this thing to the limit.
Who's he?
He's a prosecutor. Somebody's trying to blow this thing up like a big balloon. The lead story said those miners were socially prominent, but it didn't give their names. Charlie, did you know any of those kids?
I've been out of circulation for a long time. The fathers I might remember. The kids? No.
Hank. Oh, Hank.
Yeah?
I want you to give me an honest opinion. Oh, almond cookie baby, come on down. That's it. Now, don't be bashful. Come on down now. Come on. Turn around. Now, what do you think?
I'm too tired and it's too early.
I told the man to make it authentic. Now, where did he goof?
I think he did the dynasty proud.
I don't know. Something's got to go. But what? Okay, honey. Take it off.
Well, Maybe I ought to catch a show, huh?
She's not in a show. Them's the waitress's uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationship with Mr. Sykes. A woman as attractive as yourself.
Mr. Benedict, I have an aversion to flattery. Well-groomed, many other phrases might apply to me, but attractive, no.
I think you're a very lovely woman.
May I correct you? Before this awful thing happened, you might have said that, and it would have pleased me. Is any of this relevant?
I consider it so. Would you like a smoke?
Yes, I would. I would like a cigarette very much. Thank you. I wanted to grow up to be a Portia. But Judge Wallace didn't think that a woman's place was in a courtroom.
Mr. Justice Radcliffe said that your father took you to the Finney lectures when you were 13.
Judge Wallace didn't do that to turn Sarah Wallace into a Portia. His purpose was much more realistic. My mother died when I was born. Somebody had to be Judge Wallace's secretary, listening post, call it what you will. And I was until the day I could spell tort. I was until Henry Sykes came to Boston. I wasn't really very honest with you, Mr. Benedict, a few minutes ago. Henry was romance, a kind of romance. He was the first man who ever asked me to marry him. Oh, to be carried 3,000 miles from that cold Boston Bay to this lovely San Francisco Bay.
You never went back to Boston?
Oh, once for, Judge Wallace's funeral. Till now, my life has been quite full and quite blameless. You look puzzled.
I am. It's Justice Wallace you refer to. He was your father?
Of course.
Didn't you ever call him father?
Of course not. Is that relevant?
I don't know. Is it?
Now, what defense is there for me?
I don't know.
Please don't be evasive. I am like Judge Wallace. A statement must be exact or it has no meaning. What defense is there for me?
Insanity.
It's interesting. It's the only plausible plea for an act as irrational as mine. Mr. Benedict, if you win, why should I go free?
If I win, it will be because you are not responsible for what you did.
If I killed Henry Sykes, I was entirely
Not if you
responsible
don't
for my
remember.
actions. That has nothing to do with it. Both you and I know that under the McNaughton formula, you have to prove that I have or had a disease of the mind, so I didn't know what I was doing. Or else that I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. It's such an outmoded code. What was it? 1843.
It's the only code we have.
Mr. Benedict, we're both trained in the absolute logic of cause and effect. But in order to make a jury of laymen believe that I could be capable of such an act, you have to have a history. A record of insanity, a record of hysteria, antecedent acts. There are none, I know that.
I'd like to make sure.
You're trying to tell me you'd like to have me examined by a psychiatrist?
Yes.
I'll do everything I can to help you. But whatever we find out, Sarah Sykes is guilty.
ordered your cracked crab.
My dear doctor, you know I'm allergic to seafood.
I've told you, that's psychosomatic.
I'm here to discuss Sarah Sykes, not me.
There's your hamburger.
Thank you, doctor.
I like your Sarah Sykes, Sam. Brilliant, sensitive, and beautiful, too, if you like the intellectual type.
But not insane.
Insane? That's a word for lawyers.
Is she insane, doctor?
Mrs. Sykes is unbelievably sane. Maybe that's your key. Unbelievably.
Come on now. What do you mean by that?
You can always have too much of a good thing, even sanity. It's one heck of a strain walking a tightrope all your life. Now, if you could show the 12 good men and true that just once her foot slipped.
How? How, when you don't believe it yourself?
That's your job. I think she's malingering.
No, not Sarah Sykes. She wouldn't lie. She says she doesn't remember, and I believe her.
I'd say that, too, if it had saved my life. Sam, you forget, I forget. Phone numbers, names, appointments. The textbook says we forget because we want to forget. But to slaughter your husband and forget, that's something different. I had 2 hours with her. In 2 hours, I couldn't start untying knots. I was still looking for the thread. If you want more out of me, I need more time.
Well, take more time. Take all the time you want. Move a couch into a cell if you want to.
She's been examined by the state?
Yes, of course.
Found to be legally sane?
Yes, found to be legally sane.
And you want me to prove that Mrs. Sykes is, or was, legally insane?
It's my only possible defense.
I'll do what I can. But I'll tell you this. What Freud calls insanity, Blackstone may not allow in court.
Doctor, you'd be surprised what's allowed in court, if it's presented right.
You're a good man, Sam. But you're gonna lose this one.
That was a great interview you had in this morning's newspaper. Crusader Spangler calling for a crackdown on liquor service. You tied that in very neatly with Charlie Sin, very neatly.
I didn't write the story. I simply gave the interview.
What is this? Charlie's broken one law, a technical violation, and he did that unintentionally.
But he did break the law, and that's all that concerns me.
Is it, or is Charlie's case something special? That law's been broken 100 times in the past year, and it never rated more than a quarter-inch back in classified. Joe Zilch is fined, his license is lifted, and that's that. But not with Charlie Sin. He's been breakfast copy since he was arrested.
I think it's time that somebody cracked down on Charlie Sin and people like him, and put the heat on him.
Is that what you think, or what the newspaper thinks?
I know you work out of Benedict's office. I know he's pretty good. I don't know whether you're any good or not. But I hope you just said something like you just said, simply because you couldn't think of anything else to say.
I checked on those kids Charlie served. The Founders Club bunch, Parkinson, Breen, Twombly, the two. Those kids have been getting away with murder for years. Only Twombly the one and all the rest of the proud papas of the Founders Club have been able to get them off. But the tolerance has worn thin, hasn't it, Jerry? They can't get by with it anymore. So the pressure's on to crucify Charlie and cover up the real issue.
Watch yourself, Hank. If you're saying that I'm being pressured too, you better check your accusations.
I am saying it, and I am checking. You're badgering my client, and I won't stand for it.
Before you practice much more law, or before you represent people like Charlie Sin, you're gonna have to learn something.
Pressure is pressure. You snap or you bend. I'm not gonna let Charlie Sin get bent.
Well, don't count on it, Buster. I'm asking for the whole book on him.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Sam. Better tell your boy here to argue his cases in court.
Well, that's only one of the places to argue.
I got a few screws I can start turning on that guy.
Yeah?
It's a misdemeanor for a minor to show a false ID card. $500 or 6 months or both. And that would make every one of those kids delinquent. If someone filed a citizen's complaint, the parents of all those boys would be ordered to appear and show cause why their delinquent son shouldn't be made wards of the juvenile court.
Who's going to sign the complaint?
I am. I'm a citizen.
I'm Sam Benedict. I'm supposed to meet Judge Radcliffe here.
Oh, yes, sir. Won't you come in?
Thank you.
If you'll wait just a moment, sir.
Thank you.
Sam!
Mr. Justice.
Well, isn't it wonderful? Beautiful? Sarah's house.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. You know, I hated the happiness that I felt here when Henry brought Sarah west. Well, I suppose all disgruntled suitors feel that way.
You and Sarah?
What's so strange? Oh, all right, when you look at me now, yes, but 10 or 15 years ago, there was a difference. I hadn't yet passed the thin line between desire and decay. And don't you forget, Henry Atherton Sykes wasn't much younger than I am.
Tell me, were all Sarah's suitors,
old goats like me? Tell you, Sarah had an affinity for attracting the mature. And I'll show you just one reason. This room is more Sarah than any other in the house.
This? This is a man's room.
Well, maybe, in a way. But it was the spirit of the Honorable Burton Wallace that dictated this. These are his books. Now, if you want the history of jurisprudence, well, here it is. All the way from Solon to Sam Benedict. You know, Judge Wallace willed Sarah all these books and these crates.
What's in that?
Oh, the notes for his autobiography.
This is what she was working on the night Henry Sykes was killed?
Well, maybe you wouldn't call it an autobiography in a strict sense. You might call it the Gospel of Jurisprudence, according to Judge Burton Wallace, which digests this. Poor Sarah. She'll spend years trying to edit her father's notes, maybe a lifetime. Oh, here's something she was working on that night. Now, this is the first chapter of a section of Burton Wallace's personal mania, American Jurists.
I intend soft-pedaling this side of Sarah Sykes when we come to the trial. It's bad enough in my plea that she's led a sensible, well-balanced life without emphasizing to the jury that she knows this much about the law.
You must be Mr. Benedict.
Oh, Margaret. Come in. Well, this is Margaret Palmer, Sam, Sarah's closest friend.
Hello.
Hello.
Justice Radcliffe thought I might be able to tell you a few things about Sarah. Are you going to pump me for information, Mr. Benedict?
Well, you know, Sam, that Sarah might be holding back, though I doubt it. Your mother's here?
Yes.
Well, I'll say hello.
I can't abide this room. I never could.
Why don't we get out of here?
I warn you, Mr. Benedict. The women of Sarah's circle are like elephants. They form a tight ring around the wounded of the herd. Every time someone tries to peek in, the circle tightens.
That's good to know.
Now, why don't you ask me some questions?
Because I don't think you'll answer them. And besides, I have no intention of going up against a herd of elephants.
I didn't mean to frighten you away.
I'm not scared a bit.
I would like to help her. She is my best friend, you know. Do you know anything about Western society, Mr. Benedict?
I'm beginning to.
Well, if you do, then you know that it has about as much foundation as a sand pile. The greatest service the fire of Ort 6 did was to destroy the records of the founding families. Like mine. But Sarah is different. Sarah is a lady, descended from 300 years of ladies, not one of whom ever wore tights or bangles. When Henry brought her here, Sarah ascended the throne without ever being aware that there was a coronation. She's ruled ever since. No comment?
No.
No questions?
No.
Your loyal opponent. I assume the district attorney is your opponent.
He is.
Well, he has been trying to peek between the elephants. I thought you might like to know that.
If he could see anything, what would he see?
That's the amusing part. Nothing. Not a whiff of scandal about Sarah and Henry.
Didn't anyone ever call him Hank?
You have obviously never met the deceased. Mr. Benedict, my mother is in there, assuring Justice Radcliffe that Henry and Sarah were devoted, loyal, and loving, which I assure you they most emphatically were.
And you were her best friend?
Why, yes.
I just wanted to get that clear in my mind.
I'm done. No more tests. Sarah Sykes is legally sane. She knows right from wrong.
She can't be sane and do what she did.
Lately, there seems to be the idea that there are no criminals, only sick people. Baloney. You know and I know to be mentally sick is no requisite for robbing the kid's piggy bank, burning your house down, or shooting your mother-in-law.
Or killing your husband?
Check. Sam, the only thing I haven't done is check for organic disturbances. The symptoms are there, the violence, the amnesia, but there's no history. Nothing.
Look, the one thing I want to know is, was she sane at the moment she killed Henry Sykes?
I wasn't there. You weren't there. Who knows except Sarah Sykes? I'm sorry, Sam. That's all I can do for you. I'm sorry. Buy you dinner?
No. You know, you're a compulsive eater. I'll see you tomorrow, thanks.
Judy, get me the names of the parents of those minors Charlie Sin served.
Good night, Hank.
Good night, Doctor.
Good night, Ev. Make out a complaint against each one of them. I want it filed tomorrow morning first thing. You got all that?
Yes?
I want those subpoenas served tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. Not 1 minute before, not 1 minute after. Now, these men may be having breakfast, they may be in bed, they may be taking a shower, but I want them served at 7 o'clock on the nose, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
She hasn't got a prayer on the insanity plea.
Have you told her?
She knew it before I did, Hank.
I missed your visit yesterday. I've grown to look forward to your visits. You're a very civilized man, Mr. Benedict.
Well, thank you.
Judge Wallace would have enjoyed you. I wasn't much help to Dr. Culmer, was I?
Well, he found out what he had to know.
He frightened me. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I guess I've gotten a little unsure of myself being alone here day after day.
Would it help if I brought you something to work on? Your father's manuscript, for instance?
Could you? I'm not used to being idle.
Justice Radcliffe thought it might be good for you. He's got the section you were working on. He can't seem to find the reference material that goes with it.
I can't even remember what it was.
No, miss, the section about great American jurists. The first chapter deals with Chief Justice Holmes. You know, it's a funny thing, but your library seems to skip Holmes completely. Did you realize that, Mr. Sykes? Not one decision by Holmes. The books jump from Hocker to Holt as if nobody ever heard of Holmes.
Please, stop it.
What?
I said stop it.
What?
Will you get me out of here, please? Please!
Can't you shine better? God.
Oh, Charlie! Hey, Charlie, hold on there, Charlie.
Cheese, Charlie.
Hey, no pretty little costume today, Charlie?
Nope.
Come on, Charlie, give us a little show for our money. Oh, now, Charlie, now, will you please tell us what's going on? What is happening to you here today?
I don't have a Chinaman's chance.
Hank, let's talk.
Should we?
Oh, Hank.
Hey, shake hands, Mr. Spangler, will you? Here, now grab this. Get this one. Oh, wait. Come on.
Charlie, Lily, entertain the members of the Fourth Estate. Maybe you can pay them back for some of the free publicity. I'll see you in court, boys.
He had to come down here to head you off before you got to Judge Baker. Listen, the judge is pretty teed off. The fathers of those kids have even tried to get to him. Why did you have to sign those complaints? I've had 12 angry parents screaming for my hide since all morning long.
Don't you think somebody's been after Charlie's hide, too?
What do you want out of me?
I want Charlie to get whatever's coming to him, but only what he deserves. And I'll do anything to make sure he gets a fair deal. Now, the way the prosecution is handled is up to you. But I won't have Charlie crucified just to take the heat off a bunch of spoiled kids.
Holmes was her father's idol. Judge Wallace even patterned his life after Holmes, right to the way he dressed.
Then why isn't there one book on Holmes in this entire house? I'll tell you why. Because Sarah Sykes hated her old man.
That is ridiculous. Sarah was devoted to her father.
Was she?
She loved him, Sam.
Ah, she'd tell you she loved him, and she'd believe it, too. Part of our code of ethics, drilled into us from the day we're born. You have to love your papa. You should love your papa, and it's great if papa's lovable. But he wasn't, and she hated him. What did he ever give her except 30 years of slave labor with dusty books? No wonder she hated him. But she couldn't show it. So she took it out on the one person who was most like her father, Holmes. Think of all that hate and guilt pressed down year after year into a tight bale, stored away in a warehouse. Who knows what happened the night she killed Henry Sykes, huh? After coming face to face with Holmes all evening, one word out of Henry Sykes and bang, and it's all over.
Does that help your defense?
No. You know as well as I do that the whole system of criminal responsibility is based on the fancy McNaughton formula. Either Sarah Sykes has or had some malfunction or disease of the mind that makes her reasoning defective, or she just plain doesn't know that killing a man is wrong.
Neither of which applies to Sarah.
The defense is going to be not guilty by reason of insanity.
I even keep the license. So what's a little fine, man? What's a little fine,
A
huh?
fine means you just lost another 3% of your club to your uncle.
Woo! Hey, Hank. Wasn't the judge kind of rough on those kids?
Oh, for Pete's sake, Charlie.
Maybe they goof like I goof.
Go home.
We'll name a sandwich after you.
The People versus Sarah Wallace Sykes.
Ready for the people. Ready for the defense.
Ladies and gentlemen, 12 of you will be chosen shortly to serve as a jury in the case of the People versus Sarah Wallace Sykes. She is charged with committing murder on the night of August 20th of this year, causing the death of her husband, Henry Atherton Sykes. To this charge, she has pleaded not guilty. Now, this puts the burden of proof on the prosecution to establish her guilt to a moral certainty and beyond a reasonable doubt. Mr. Benedict represents Mrs. Sykes. Mr. Ross Valley represents the people.
Your Honor, I would now like to add to the defendant's plea. The defendant now pleads not guilty because at the time she is alleged to have committed the unlawful act, she was insane.
No objections, Your Honor.
Under California law, we are bound by the McNaughton rule, which says that so long as the defendant knows the difference between right and wrong, the defendant is presumed to be sane. But I tell Your Honor now that I shall attack this ruling with everything I know and with all my heart.
Very well, Mr. Benedict. We shall see what we shall see. For the record, let the plea be entered as not guilty, and not guilty by reason of insanity. Mr. Clerk, may call the jury.
Sarah Wallace Sykes, this respected and highly intelligent member of our community, brutally attacked her husband and killed him.
Now, that question is impossible to answer accurately, Mr. Rosvaldi. There was no one particular wound which caused his death. Mr. Sykes' death resulted from a cumulative series of wounds.
Found there was a broad path of blood.
I have one. Would you please give that to the jury? And what conclusion did you draw from that path of blood?
Well, we surmise, and I do mean surmise, that Mr. Sykes was struck first before the fireplace. And as he tried to move or crawl, he was hit over and over again until he reached this spot here.
Thank you, Inspector Quigg. Your witness.
No questions, Your Honor.
Was the library door locked, Mr. Evans?
No, sir.
Where was Mr. Sykes when you entered the room?
Mr. Sykes was lying by the work table.
And where was Mrs. Sykes?
She was kneeling beside him.
What was Mrs. Sykes doing when you entered the room? Do you recognize this object?
Yes, sir.
Tell us exactly what you saw Mrs. Sykes doing.
She had the jade figure in her hands. She was pounding it over and over into... Please, sir.
It's essential for our understanding that you continue.
Answer the question, Mr. Evans, simply as possible.
She was pounding the jade figure into Mr. Sykes' face.
Did she make any move toward you?
No, sir. She just knelt there. At that moment, Mrs. Evan appeared. I believe she screamed, and I grabbed Mrs. Sykes and held her until the police came.
Thank you. Your witness, Mr. Benedict.
No questions.
Sam, I said I wouldn't interfere, but not to question one single prosecution witness.
Barney pinned her like a butterfly. A, he proved she did it. How he proved she did it. B, he proved she's a completely rational woman. That's exactly what I wanted.
Are you going to call me, Sam?
No, I have exactly one witness. Mrs. Sykes, the prosecution has clearly established that you're one of the country's leading legal authorities. Where did you acquire this vast fund of knowledge?
I had a very fine teacher, Judge Burton Wallace.
Your father?
Yes.
Do you have any formal law degree?
No. I followed what might be called an anachronistic pattern, Mr. Benedict. Law schools are actually an innovation. Before that, men had to seek out one legal authority and read the law with him. I didn't have to seek out anyone. I was very fortunate to have that authority in my own home.
Objection, Your Honor. This is all very stimulating, I'm sure, but it's hardly relevant to the charges at hand.
It is relevant, Your Honor. It is completely relevant. It is introductory material essential to understanding what happened at the Sykes home on the night of August the 20th.
You may continue, Mr. Benedict, subject to connection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Sykes. Mrs. Sykes, was all your legal education conducted at your father's home?
One needn't qualify it with the word legal. My entire education was conducted at home. I was never sent to school.
Your father was an extraordinary man, Mrs. Sykes. His death was a great loss to our profession.
Well, perhaps the work he bequeathed to me, editing his autobiography, will minimize that loss.
Mrs. Sykes, are you sane?
Before the prosecution rises to object, let me say that insofar as that term obtains in this court of law, yes, I am.
Do you believe you were legally sane on the night of August the 20th?
If other cases are to be used as a precedent, yes.
Do you believe you can be held legally responsible for your actions on the night of August the 20th?
Under California statutes, yes.
The law is constantly changing, Mrs. Sykes. To use a quotation I'm sure you're familiar with, the law tends to conform our standards to experience. Do you know that quotation? Do you know who said those words?
What?
Can you tell the court who used that quotation as a guidepost to his life and work? Who was it, Mrs. Sykes?
Judge Wallace.
Who?
My father.
Your father? But whose quotation is it, Mrs. Sykes?
I don't know.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness on a point of reference?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Sykes, you don't know the author of this classic legal quotation? The author of this very book?
No.
Do you recall a conversation we had a few days ago touching on this very man?
I don't remember.
When I visited you last Wednesday, did I or did I not mention his name?
I don't remember.
Do you remember what you did when I mentioned his name?
I don't know.
Did you ask me to stop?
No.
Did you, the sane, sensible Sarah Sykes, shout at me, beg the attendant to take you out of the room?
No.
What famous American jurist made that quotation, Mrs. Sykes? Was it the man who your father idolized as he idolized no other human being in your life? Who was it, Mrs. Sykes? Who was it? Come on, say it. Who was it? Say it. Come on, Mrs. Sykes. Not your father. Say it. Say it, Mrs. Sykes. Holmes! Out of the window, Holmes!
Remove the defendant.
You had to do it to save her life.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to kill her to save her life. Well, they'll test her, they'll treat her. They'll do everything they can to make her sane enough to stand trial. But she'll never be.